Good evening. Welcome to the meeting of the Tahoe Truckee Unified School District Board of Trustees. Today is September 21st, 2022. The board did meet in closed session this afternoon and took no reportable action in closed session. Mr. Rold, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening? Thank you so much. Superintendent Geisels, does staff have any changes to this evening's agenda?
Yes, we do, President Zurich. On item 13.1, we want to modify a portion of that item, but continue with another portion,
Okay.
if that makes any sense.
It does, so we will deal with that when we get to
Yes.
that item?
Yes.
Okay, but nothing else is changing wholesale?
No.
Okay, would someone like to make a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with that noted adjustment.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Next is the opportunity for public comment. So for anyone who is here this evening to make a comment to the board on anything not on this evening's agenda, if you have something that you want to talk about that is on the agenda, we ask you to wait till that time. Is there anyone who would like to make public comment? Seeing none, I will close public comment. Thank you. Next, Superintendent Geisels, we get to hear your report for the board.
Yes, and tonight is a very specific report. I have online with us this evening is Gilbert Y., who is currently a board member in the Hillsborough School District, and Lana Guernsey, who is also with Gilbert, and they work for Living Strategies. And Gilbert and Lana have helped the district in starting our strategic plan revision. So Pathways 2020 soon is going to be Pathways 2026. So they're here tonight to give a brief overview of what we did last year as far as strategic planning and where we're going this year. Lana, Gilbert?
Great, thank you, Superintendent. If it still works for you, I'll share the quick slides that we have prepared. Does that make sense, Superintendent?
Yes, go right ahead, Lana.
Let me. Sorry, 1 second. And are we seeing the slides?
We can see them.
Okay, perfect. So what we have prepared in the board packet, which was attached to the agenda online materials, is just a brief overview for the trustees of what happened in the strategic planning process since we last saw you. And that is that we set out to complete Part A of the project last spring. And that really was intended to collect initial input from a number of leaders from across the district and really prepare the superintendent and prepare the district to begin a much broader outreach of collecting input this fall from everyone from teachers, staff at the school sites, as well as parents, community, and students. So we just provided this list of activities that are both forward-looking and have recently been completed for trustee reference, should you wish to look at that. The other thing was we also completed a Part A report that was provided to the board from the superintendent, in which we really just want the trustees and the public to be aware that behind the scenes, in addition to looking at these 5 phases of the strategic planning process we're going to be going through, we're really managing a number of details on the back end, so that should any of the trustees want to understand exactly what had been happening on a month-by-month basis, in your board report and your packet, this was a schedule of the different times of input, some of the different meetings that took place over the spring, and how we rolled that up into a report for the superintendent in the June timeframe. What you'll also see in that Part A summary report is that as we looked across the senior leadership groups who really participated in this first round of input, after the board had given us direction to look at sort of the different themes or areas, you'll see that that data was collected by category or area of focus, just to make it easier for the people who are participating in the input to give more focused comments, and also for you as board members and or the public that are looking at that to be able to understand what might some of the initial feedback be looking at around teaching and learning, community engagement, diversity, equity, inclusion, and access, student health, wellness, and support, and climate and culture. Those were really the 5 categories that we were looking at gathering the input around. So with the Part A report complete, that really now brings us to Part B of the project. And we're really looking at this project for the district, given both the size and the geography that you cover, in 3 distinct parts. So now that we've collected some initial input, that really is just a launching platform for the superintendent and the district and for all of you in your governance role to be able to move forward, because the next phase of this project is collecting the broader community input that we mentioned. And that is really starting to see what themes and ideas and topics are on the minds of your other constituents. And those I mentioned previously, your teachers, staff, and your community parents and other members who are key stakeholders within the district. And so when we look at how we are proposing to move forward with that, we presented in your packet an outline of proposed activities and dates for the fall. This really takes us up through the fall and into the winter. And I think the thing that I'd like to point out on this slide for the board is you'll see in this kind of orangish pumpkin color for October that there is a large window of input that we've identified during October in which the superintendent would like to launch a community-wide survey. We've shared a link to that and previews of that with trustees in case there's any comment or questions on that. But the idea is that we would move into the October timeframe as a period to be able to collect this larger input that we're talking about and conclude the October timeframe with the last week of October kicking off a few important things. The items that are highlighted in kind of this neon yellow on the page that you're looking at now are an opportunity the superintendent has identified for both October 24th and 26th to be doing some live facilitation input sessions where people in the community could come to one of the district sites, be able to be in conversation with the superintendent and provide input live and in person. Anyone unable to or who doesn't want to come in person, we would also have surveys and online input opportunities available throughout the month of October so that you can really collect community input in a number of different ways. And our idea here too is that we would want to have those sessions be available to your community in the geographic areas you serve. So one being centrally located within the Tahoe side area and one being centrally located in the Truckee side area. The other thing that you'll see that we're recommending in the packet is October 25th is slated as a possible date to kick off what we were calling or recommending as a strategic planning task force meeting. And I'll mention more on that in just 1 minute. This is just in your packet that I already mentioned the survey that we would intend to have open for the month of October. And as we take trustee comment, we would welcome any thoughts or comments the board has on the structure of that survey. The proposal was attached in your materials. And this is what we're thinking about for the task force. So one of the things that we've found and we've been in conversation with the superintendent about is that in working with school districts to do strategic planning, we find that there are kind of 5 really important roles to do strategic planning in a very collaborative and engaging way. And so as your facilitators and strategic partners, we see ourselves in supporting all of you to help the process just stay on track, move efficiently so you can focus really on the content. The superintendent plays a critical leadership role, as does the board. But we also believe there's an opportunity to bring together a volunteer task force that can not only advise the superintendent and the board in looking at the community data that's going to be coming in, but also to be able to help brainstorm ideas and move the project forward in a way that they have voices representing the community, but it's a smaller working group. Then the last piece that you see across the bottom of this really feeds up into all of the aspects, and that's what we're recommending as these 3 rounds of community input, the first of which would kick off here this fall in October. And you've already done board and cabinet and principals earlier in the spring, so the first part of that was already completed. So we're sharing this slide and putting it in the packet just to give you a sense and a reminder from when we first were talking about how the different groups come together to be able to inform a plan that the trustees could look at and review toward the end. Also in the packet, because of the size of the district, we do believe that it probably makes sense to have a task force that is on the larger side, 20 to 40 members. We certainly have facilitated and worked with task forces that large. It does mean that it is complicated and a task to be able to ensure that every person feels their time is respected, efficient, and effective. And so if we were to have a group of this size, we think we would effectively be able to represent the diversity across the district for you. But we would also imagine putting people into smaller working groups so that each of these individual volunteers would have a discrete, maybe one of the 5 areas of focus, as opposed to trying to have everybody work on everything at the same time, because we want to be really respectful and understanding of what the participant experience is going to look like this as well. So starting with a group of this size and breaking them into working teams is our recommendation for how we can do that efficiently, effectively, and engaging in a way that makes that a very reasonable volunteer commitment. And so that is just kind of a high-level overview of some of the elements that were in the pre-read. And unless the board would like me to go back to any of those questions, I'm happy to just stop sharing my screen so that you have the full breadth of your screens back, or I can take the board's lead however you like. And Carmen, back to you as well. This is within your section. So Superintendent, I'll ask if there's anything you have to add.
Thank you, Lana. No, I think that we've done a lot of work so far with staff, and now we're looking forward to engaging our community, our students, our parents, our partnering agencies to do the work. So it's going to be, I think, a great fall and winter and spring when we come up with a final revision of our strategic plan. Does the board have any questions?
I have a question and a comment.
Sure.
My question is, you had mentioned the survey, but we haven't seen a survey draft yet. Have you seen a survey draft?
I think, Lana, we probably need to resend that to me, and I can resend it to the board because it was in the packet, but I think that they missed it. So we'll send it to you by this week.
Okay.
Absolutely. We'll follow up right after the meeting.
Okay, thank you. So somehow
Sure.
I missed that. I apologize. And then 60, wow. Hopefully we can get that many.
Maybe 40,
Yeah.
50. But we want a really diverse group to represent our district because we are diverse.
We
and,
are.
And we want to be able to get everyone's input. And those that don't participate, again, we'll have the survey that comes out.
I mean, for me, the diversity representation is much more important than the size.
Right.
So,
Okay, that's good to know.
Galen?
Yeah, I have a question. The board did get surveys, like about 5 different ones
But that was a while ago.
What we mean is there's a survey to go out to the community that we want the board to preview first. So we'll have that sent to them. You can send it to Lupita and myself, Lana, and then we'll send it on to the trustees.
Absolutely. And Carmen, in case you are interested, this is just the highlights that are in there. This is what that survey will look like, and we can present that to the board as a link.
That would be perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think the thing for the board to understand is it's very high level, and it's meant for your community to be able to answer it in about 10 or 15 minutes, and it's intentionally open-ended, so you really can hear the voices of the community when you see that raw data.
Anything else, board? Thank you for your time and all of this work. It's really exciting.
We'll be back with updates, so we're looking forward to it.
Great.
Thank you, Lana. Thank you, Gilbert. I'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And that's it for your report, Superintendent Geisels? Okay, thank you. So next we have 3 resolutions. The first item is about actually delaying a resolution. So you want to address that, Superintendent Geisels?
So back in, I think the board meeting was September the 20, I think it was earlier than that. It was the last board meeting in August. We had a resolution from our Moms Demand Action, and Ms. Dana Dose is here to represent the group, and it was about the firearm closet resolution. And so the trustees asked me to do some research, so we did some research with legal counsel, and what we found out that legal counsel has advised us that there's 2 assembly bills coming up. The first one is AB 452, Assembly Bill 452, and it will begin in 23-24, and it requires school districts to annually inform parents and guardians of pupils at the beginning of the school year of California's Child Access Prevention Law and laws relating to safe storage of firearms. So that will start July 1, 2023. And then the other bill is Senate Bill 906, which requires districts to include information related to safe storage of firearms in their annual notification provided to the parents and guardians of pupils. So it also requires school officials in grades 6 through 12 who alerted to or observes any threat or perceived threat to report the threat to law enforcement immediately. So based on the resolution and based on these laws, our legal counsel advised that we can delay until the law comes into effect because there's supposed to be a template regarding the resolution. And it's almost exactly like the resolution that our Moms Demand Action are asking for. So staff is recommending, based on legal counsel's research and advice, that we have the resolution, but wait for the state to provide us with a template so we can do that accordingly. And of course, do the annual notifications. And then in addition to that, we'll continue with our social emotional wellness about safety. We are having some ALICE trainings for trainer of trainers. I've invited Dana to participate if she'd like to. So that is what staff is recommending regarding this resolution.
Board questions on this? Please, Chris.
So when we are communicating these,
Changes?
does it come, are we envisioning that if we approve this, that it would come in the pre-registration packets at the beginning of the year?
Yes, Todd and I were just talking about we'll have to change our annual parent notification packet to reflect these two new laws
And
for next year.
require a signature like
Yes.
all of our others?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Other board questions? Did you want to make a public comment about this, even though we're not taking action?
I love to, I just wanted to let everyone.
Can you do it at the microphone so everybody can hear you? Yeah, thank you.
I'm sure the green light is on.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Perfect.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you so much for your consideration for this, and we're just looking forward to partnering with y'all. We have a lot of educational materials, and I have some of them with me today just so you can see what we can provide, and we can present to the PTOs and any other types of organizations where the parents are present to help just educate on secure storage in any way possible and get the word out to the community.
So what I'd like to do is meet with Dana at a future date and talk about that, and tap her into the principles for that, and then maybe their PTOs. And that's the social emotional piece we're talking about now.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other public comment on this? Okay, so we're going to take no action right now, and we'll look forward to bringing this back as soon as we have a template that will make sure that we're in compliance with both of those bills.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Thank you for being ahead of the curve, and good job for making it happen at the state. So,
Thank you.
Good job. Next, we have a proclamation for National Adult Education and Family Literacy Week.
Mrs. Kramer?
Good evening. We're very excited about this proclamation because it recognizes the importance for our scholars, our young scholars, of the adults in their lives, their parents, grandparents, other community members. And this also happens to coincide with the start of TTUSD's adult education program. This was our kickoff week. Many families may not realize that we have an adult ed program, and one of our instructors and the manager of that program, Todd Wold, is present in the audience tonight. And it's wonderful. It offers a course in construction. We have GED and ESL classes. So thank you, Board, for considering this proclamation.
Thank you. Board questions? Public comment on this? I just want to recognize our amazing staff who's here, who work really hard with our adult learners and make a huge difference in their life. It was so amazing to go to the graduation this year and see the proudness of not only the learner who is graduating, but their family and their kids and the role model that they provided for their kids. So thank you so much for everything you do. So would someone like to make a motion on this? Of course, Galen.
In the backup material, there was a page about less educated adults in the US of A. And a lot of details on what that costs us. $2.2 trillion more gross revenue if all of our adults could read at least to the 6th grade level. which, mind-blowing,
Yep.
which made me think, this is why we want free busing and we want free and reduced meals, so all of our students can be educated.
I was going to make a comment as well. That was amazing, that little reading, that pamphlet was information that I didn't know, that there were so many that weren't educated past the sixth grade. And it's one of those things too, where you said to moms that demand action, being ahead of the curve, and addressing the fact that we had that need there was, I think, Heather, you've done a great job in terms of reaching out. But I think it's pretty cool that we are, in our little town here, have acknowledged that, and we have the program. Like, we have all kinds of stuff for our adults, and the fact that we have adults taking them. Like, I think you've done a great job spinning it so that people actually want to do it. So that's a compliment. I probably should go to one of those classes. Anytime. Yes, okay.
Would you like to make a motion?
With that, I'll now make a motion to approve the resolution number 6.
Thank you, Dee Dee. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Thanks again, you guys. Next, we get to approve the Gan Limit.
Mr. Rivera?
Great, thank you. So every year when we close the books, we do a calculation called the Gan Limit. And essentially, the Gan Limit is a limit on governmental spending. It was established in 1979 under Proposition 4, and essentially what it says is that government spending should grow no faster than the growth in population and inflation. And every year we have to calculate not only what our current preliminary Gan limit is for the prior fiscal year, 2021-22, but also our projected Gan limit or spending limit for 2022-2023. So essentially what that is it's our revenues and expenditures, or projected revenues and expenditures that are adjusted for population and inflationary indexes. And essentially, a lot of times our actual spending exceeds our Gan limit. So the state allows us to adopt a resolution that increases our Gan limit, which will increase our Gan limit for the 2021-22 fiscal year, but also our projected Gan limit for the next fiscal year as well. So with that, this resolution approves an increase to our Gan limit of $2,930,235.25. And then subsequent actions will be to send a letter to the state letting them know that we increased our Gan limit, and then the state will offset their Gan limit accordingly.
Thank you. Questions? Public comment? Would anyone like to make a motion on this?
Thank you, Todd, and I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 7, the adoption of the Gan limit for 22-23.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Next, we have a donation. This is a donation from the Rotary Club of Truckee for Positive Behavior School Program at Sierra High School.
Yes, the Rotary Club of Truckee has been helping Sierra High School over the years to begin and fund their positive behavior program. It's been in place, for, I believe, for many years. So they have had great success with students earning their Creed coins. These are the wooden nickels with the Sierra High School logo. And as they follow and exceed our expectations, and they exceed their own expectations. And we are very happy to say that Rotary Club of Truckee has donated $1,750 for this really worthy cause.
Wonderful. Questions? Public comment? Would someone like to make a motion to accept this?
I will thank the Rotary Club of Truckee and make a motion to approve the donation for Sierra High.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Next, we have our consent agenda. Superintendent Geisel, does staff wish to pull any items from the consent agenda?
No, we do not.
Would any board members like to pull any items? Would someone like to move?
I'll make one quick comment before we do approve the consent agenda. I just wanted to do a quick shout out there to HR for uploading the number. I always read the personnel reports just because I want to see who's going where, and a lot of pages. So nice work on getting some people here, and creative work on getting them into jobs, because there was a lot that had been reassigned, which is great as well. So hats off to that. And with that, I'll make a motion to approve the consent.
Thank you, Dee Dee. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Next on a personnel item, this is kind of cool.
Yes.
We are being asked to approve, I'm going to read it as it is, and then we'll talk about the
Yes,
modification.
yes.
Approve changes to the executive management and classified management salary schedule.
So what staff is requesting to modify this a little bit, because we want to pull the classified management and executive managed salary schedules to refine the calculations on that salary schedule. However, at the same time, staff is asking that the board approve the change of job titles for two very, very important people in our district. The first one is changing the job title of Executive Director of Business Services to Assistant Superintendent Chief Business Officer, and that would be Todd Rivera. The second title would be to change the Coordinator of Fiscal Services to the Director of Fiscal Services, and that's Angie Morales-White. So Todd, I know you wanted, I know the board wants to say a few things, but let me just speak for the district, is that you are a leader in your field, in your departments, with your employees, and you and Angie make such a great team, and I am so thankful to be working with you, and I am thankful to be working with you for this year and years to come, and Angie, the same goes for you. Thank you so much for your subject matter expertise, your kindness, your stick-to-itness, and your sense of humor. So thank you. It's well-deserved for both of you. So on that note, Mr. Rivera.
Yes, and we have another very important addition or change to the Business Services Division later, which I'll speak to, but with regards to Angie here. So I'm very happy that Angie is moving into the director role, and if you remember, a director of fiscal services was always in the fiscal services department, and then on the departure of our former director of fiscal services, we created a new position for Angie, and the intent was always for her to make her way to the directorship, so I'm very happy to see that tonight. But just to give you a little history, Angie started with the district in 2001. I believe. I looked it up. And she worked for a couple years with us, and then went on and did some other things, and then came back to us in 2004 and has held various roles throughout her tenure here at the district, which include an accounts payable technician, an admin assistant to the assistant superintendent of business services, a senior budget technician, an administrative assistant at Truckee High School, a senior budget technician again when she came back to fiscal services, and then a supervisor of fiscal services, and then finally coordinator. So anyway, congratulations.
Thank you for giving that background, Todd. And of course, you have been also an amazing team member and someone, because I can relate to your work. Yeah. I so appreciate all that you do for the district. And I remember when I was very much younger and had real dark hair instead of fake dark hair, I worked for a CPA firm in the city, right? And they assigned me to a school district to audit. And I was like, oh my God, this is the most complex, convoluted, crazy, confusing financial accounting that I've ever seen in my life. And it continues to be that way. And the way you guys handle it with clarity and transparency, and you turn it into English for people to understand. So not only do you get clean audits every single year, but you make it understandable hopefully for everyone out there who takes the time to read the budgets and the updates that you give us. So I'm super excited for your title changes because they're well-deserved, and a recognition of the support that we need in the district office to make sure that we support the teaching and learning that goes on out at all of our schools. So thank you so much. So I got to be on my soapbox. How about anybody else?
I'll say
Okay.
something.
Great, that'd be wonderful.
So Angie, first of all, you get credit, just so you know, even though you're not in this room, Todd speaks your name. I met with him a couple days ago about miscellaneous stuff. Your name came up. So just so you know, you are appreciated truly by Todd and all of us, of course. And then, Todd, I just really appreciate just how I like the way you put it. You speak English. You don't speak math to me. You speak English. And I appreciate that, and I also trust what you present, and I in the past, I have had to like spot check things because I should. But I trust you, and I'm very appreciative of what you do for the district. And when we have to make decisions that, we can't just think of one entity in the district that would benefit or be affected by what we're voting on. I know that you are digging deep to present how everyone will be affected. And so I really appreciate that. And I bow down to both of you. Really, truly, just bow down. Thank you so much.
Okay, so would someone like to make?
I'm going to let Galen do it, but before you go, I knew you were going to go, so let me go first before you, and you can make it. Again, same thing, Angie, just so you know, you may be the silent one behind the door, but you're with us all the time. And he's not as good without you, so just so you know. But really, it's one of those things where I think Kim definitely was in that industry and so understood it. So I think it's really important that we bring it back because it is a complex thing, and it's not 1 and 1 is 2, and it's not like we get the money at the same time and then we're promised money and we don't get it. So the creative work that you've done, and one of the things that was important to all of us when we first started is your audits you were on. So everything that I will say Chris said is honest. You're up front and we're on it, which is great. So the other thing that I think with Todd is, obviously, you have changed so much in terms of your presentations from the beginning where they were in Moneyland and none of us understood it, and now we can totally get it. You're really, you make great choices based on what you know and then what you think, but you've kept our reserve for economic uncertainty in a spot where it's not small, it's not little, but you've given us pictures as to where it's going to be, but it's honest, and we know that it does move and stuff, but we are so lucky that we have that because nothing's going to be the same. So I'm really psyched about your complete thought process on how our whole budget works. And I'm sure you've got a learning curve you've learned so much about this. And we would be lost without you. So really, I'm glad that this job title is there and you deserve every bit of it. I don't know if I can spell superintendent, but we can do it. All right, I'll let Galen go.
So it will give me great pleasure
Yes.
to make a motion to approve these 2 well-deserved title changes.
And we'll come back later with the salary schedule. There's just some minor tweaks there. Yeah. Okay, would someone like to second that?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Thank you. Okay, from the exciting to the mundane, we flip back and forth here. Declare list of equipment to be surplus and their estimated values.
Mr. Rivera, would you like to take this one? Assistant Superintendent, Chief Business Officer Rivera.
It's a lot on that.
Is there an acronym for that?
CBO.
Sorry, I was looking at the wrong item. That's why I got confused. Essentially, this is just a list of surplus items, and we're required before we either dispose of them or sell them to share them with the board and have them approve them as surplus items.
Oops, questions? Public comment? Would someone like to make a motion?
I will make a motion to approve 14.1.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 The next item is approving the 21-22 unaudited actuals.
Great, thank you. And I think I got turned around a little bit, with the staffing changes. So I missed that. Another very important
Thank you.
change was on the personnel action report. So if you don't mind, I'd like to take just a minute to introduce a not new
We were
employee.
waiting, so we knew it was coming
Okay,
at some
great.
point. Yeah.
Great. So we've had a vacancy as a director of facilities maintenance and operations for several months now, and I'm very pleased to introduce my recommendation for appointment to the director of facilities, Rob Coster. And just to give you a little background on Rob, Rob came to the district in 1999 as a project manager, first working on the Measure C bond program. So, and since then, he stayed with us through Measure U, and you know, basically, he's been at the forefront and the lead on all the major improvement projects and even some small projects on the Truckee side and all of our Truckee schools. So that includes the construction of Alder Creek Middle School, the Truckee High School cafeteria, Truckee High School gym, Truckee High School modernization part 1. When was that? Back in like 2002 or 2004. The DO conversion, so all you see here in this beautiful boardroom, the Alder Creek Middle School upgrades for Measure U, Truckee High School reconstruction and career technical education addition, and then also the Truckee Elementary School reconstruction. And I know there's more there, so I'm very pleased to have him in that role as a facilities director now, and I look forward to working with him.
We're delighted, Rob. Thank you. Thank you.
And then there's going to be another measure coming up soon, so you'll have a few more.
Dee Dee, don't start rumors. Okay, so, sorry, so we're on our unaudited actuals.
Okay, thank you. So tonight, we present the unaudited actuals report, which is the first step in closing out the 2021-2022 fiscal year. I always say that this is my favorite time of year because there's no projections, there's nothing I have to guess or estimate. It's just, it is what it is. This is how we ended the year. So I also want to thank Angie once again for all of her work. It's very short timeline, as I say every year, from the time, pretty much from April, May, we're working nonstop for the next year's budget cycle, but then developing that budget and then stepping into the closing of the books for the year. So we don't have much of a summer. Angie always works weekends and countless hours, so. It's not working? Okay. All right, so. And one thing I should note, and you should have some documents that I've passed out here, there was some minor changes to unaudited actuals, some of the numbers, which I will explain a little bit more detail later. But what you have before you is a revised presentation. You'll see the changes are highlighted in a different color hue of green, and I'll point those out as I move through the presentation. Also, there's a revised, what we call Standard Accounting Code Structure Form 01, which reflect the changes as well. So, quick overview of the budget reporting process. Once again, we're required to present the unaudited actuals and send to Placer County Office of Education by September 15th. Obviously, it's September 21st. They give us some leeway for board meeting dates that aren't exactly before the 15th or on the 15th. So we'll be sending the report directly to PCOE after you approve. We do have our external auditors coming in on the week of October 10th. They'll be here all week. I'm not sure if they're in person or if they're still doing virtual, but essentially that's when they cross all the T's and dot all the I's and make sure we did everything right. So we will be bringing a final audit report to you probably December, January for the 21-22 fiscal year. We'll also have the first interim report, which we'll present in December for the 2022-23 year, and then the second interim report in March, followed by the 23-24 budget adoption in June. So overall, this is how we ended the year. Our total revenues, both unrestricted and restricted, amounted to $83.3 million. Our total expenditures are $79.9, and that's one of the numbers that changed from the original presentation. As I said, I'll explain why later. Total unrestricted fund balance is $15.03 million, leaving our reserve to be approximately $13.2 million. And back in June, we did what was called estimated actuals, trying to estimate how we'd end the year, and we ended up with a reserve about $624,000 higher than what we originally projected. So we ended the year a little better than what we thought. So overall, compared to last year, or excuse me, 2021, our reserve has increased by $1.64 million. Overall, some of the major changes that have occurred since we estimated in June to how we ended the year are revenues increased by overall $514,000 roughly. A lot of different variants included in that, including a slight increase to our property tax estimates of $61,000, a larger increase to what we call our RDA, or Redevelopment Agency residual property taxes. That's the one that's always a little bit hard to predict, and sometimes we get a nice little fallout at the end of the year in residual property taxes. We are going to expect an increase to our lottery estimates. We had actually reduced that a little bit because of our enrollment, our ADA decreases, but also the estimated rates from the state were a lot less. Now they've increased that a little bit based on state revenues. We are going to be seeing a decrease in our Washoe County tuition of about $154,000, and that includes basically an adjustment from the prior year, 2021, and also adjustments in 21 and 22. And the reason for that is because all of our Washoe County students that we accept on a variance, Washoe County Public School pays us on a per student basis for those. They have adjusted their calculation of their per pupil amounts and reduced it quite substantially, so now we're getting a lot less from them. Other nice surprises were an increase of $140,000 in our redevelopment agency pass-through funding, and then also an increase in our special education funding of about $201,000. I should note that about $162,000 of that was one-time in nature, so we were able to offset some 21-22 cost. And then a decrease in our bus grants. We were expecting a bus grant from their pollution control district of $75,000 to purchase a new bus. We're still getting that. We just don't receive it until we actually receive the bus. So there was a delay in ordering. We're expecting to receive that in 22-23. And then this is kind of a funky one. This will take a little bit of explaining. Could you pull back the slide one? So we had a $495,000 decrease in our local revenue, and this is a result of what we call a GASB 31 fair market value entry. And let me try to explain it here. Essentially, GASB 35, which is the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, and dictates how we have to book entries and how our books need to look. They have a variety of different statements. This statement is GASB 31, statement number 31. And what that says is that districts that are holding their funds in an external investment pool, and I'm reading this because it's, are required to assess the fair market value of their cash holdings as of June 30th of each year. And essentially what that means, all of our cash and money is held with Placer County Treasurer. They do all of our investments. They're all governmental approved investments. They send us a monthly market report on how those investments are doing. And what we're required to do, because it is considered an external investment pool, is we're supposed to compare what the original book value was, so the original value of that cash, to what the current market value of those investments look like. So as everyone knows, there's been some decline in the stock market and the bond market, everything else. So we have to recognize any gain or loss in those investments. So for us, it was a pretty substantial amount. And in the past, most districts in Placer County have not done this entry because it is usually pretty incidental. Usually you either see a gain or you'll see the original book value come in pretty close to the fair market value. In this case, there was a decline of about 2.5%, so we basically have to take all of our cash and reduce it by that 2.5% amount. There is question on, is this a real entry or is this just a book entry? It's kind of debatable. It is real in the sense that if we were to close down our doors and Placer County closed down their doors tomorrow and we cashed out all of our investments and they redistributed to all the public agencies, we would realize $495,000 in loss. Will we actually really see it in material? Most likely not. But so some districts will choose to reverse that entry in the next following year and put the money or the revenue back in their accounts. I'm going to be working with auditors and just seeing what their recommendations are on that. But for right now, this is how we have to recognize it in unaudited actuals. Any questions on that? All right.
No, I totally understood exactly what you were talking about, because we did this every year at the town, and we would just do the net change the next year. I know nobody else knows what I'm saying, but Todd knows.
Yeah.
And then can we follow up on this Washoe County tuition thing? Maybe not tonight, but can you talk to us about it at some point, please?
Certainly.
Thank you.
And we are working with them, trying to get some background on why the per pupil amounts have changed. It decreased by, I believe it was about $1,000 per student, so that's pretty significant.
Yeah.
So we had the prior year adjustment, which was about half of that, because we had, when we closed our books last year in 2021, we had thought we were going to receive this. Very late in actually receiving that payment. I don't think we got it until March of this year for the 2021 year. So that's why we had to recognize the loss.
So can we unilaterally change what we give them for the students who go to their district?
We can definitely negotiate and talk with them about it. It's always been in the past that we've taken their per pupil funding amounts, but we can certainly have that conversation with them.
Okay, I don't want to go down that rabbit
Yeah,
hole if that's
yeah.
okay with you guys tonight, but
But we'll look into it.
Okay.
And come back.
When it does come back, just out of curiosity, could you tell us what the number of pupils are this year versus maybe 5 years or something, whatever might be a natural? I'm just curious,
Yes,
like,
we can do that.
okay, thank you very much.
And just, for a ballpark, over the last several years, we've averaged probably between 90 and 97 students that are Washoe students that attend our schools. And in the reverse, usually 9 of our kids attend Washoe County schools. So we pay them the tuition at the same rate for our kids that are going to their schools.
oh, so we match their rate?
We do.
Okay.
Also, that means ours just went down.
Yeah.
Okay, so on the expenditure side, our expenditures decreased by $483,000 roughly, and that's one of the numbers that changed once again, highlighted in green. Overall, we did have an increase in our salaries of about $309,000. A big portion of that was actually sub-costs that we realized in the last several months of the school year. So from March or April through the end of the year, we had a lot of COVID-related leaves. We had teachers backfilling and filling in for teachers that were absent, and the costs were pretty substantial. Actually, we almost matched our sub-cost in the last 3 months of school than we did in the prior 7 months. So with that, we had a slight decrease in benefits of $94,000. On the materials and supplies side, a decrease of about $175,000. A lot of that was related to unused allocations from site operational and also Measure AA. Also, there's a lot of accounting transfers that are going on where we're moving from one expenditure category to another expenditure category. So that shows it as a reduction even though it's just spent somewhere else. And then we had transportation and maintenance savings of about $80,000. And most of that was related to fuel cost and materials cost for the bus repairs. On the services and operations side, increase of $167,000. One of the big contributors to that was our utilities. We did try to make adjustments and increase our utilities at estimated actuals. It wasn't quite enough. A lot of that is associated with some rate increases we're seeing with some of our utility companies. And also, we had a lot more usage. We had a much longer cold season than we experienced in prior years. Increase in legal fees of $152,000, and then we had some decreases in other professional services contracts. So some of those we'll actually be experiencing this year because we didn't complete those contracts in the prior year. We'll be moving them into the 22-23 year. And then again, some decreases to transportation and maintenance. A lot of that's probably associated with, we had increased the budget for fuel costs because of the diesel cost at the time, but they weren't doing as many trips because of the lack of staffing, and so we had some savings there. Next is a decrease in our capital outlay of $408,000, and this is stuff that we'll realize in the 22-23 year. We had security cameras that we ordered that we didn't receive, so we'll be not only paying for those in 2022-23, but also the installation cost, which is included in the budget already. And then a bus that we ordered and haven't received, and that's related to that $75,000 grant that I spoke of before. One of the biggest and nicest surprises, and not so much of a surprise, but we actually had no food service contribution this year, and that's something since I've been involved in the fiscal services department we've never seen. So our food service contribution, which is essentially what the district's general fund contributes to our food services program every year, has ranged anywhere from $300,000 to $700,000. And that's because of our participation rates were low. We weren't getting as much federal reimbursement, but we were still providing great healthy meals for our students and using scratch cooking and having to staff that. With the Meals for All that we've seen over the last couple of years, we've seen meal participation increase exponentially both at breakfast and lunchtime. And our revenues, we tried to estimate conservatively when we were doing our estimated actuals, came in much higher, which I'm very pleased. So we had no contribution. I'm a little hesitant to continue that on in the multi-year basis. We're just starting the California State Universal Meal Program. I want to see how that materializes a little bit before I pull back on what we project for our contribution for this year.
Todd, I just want to, this is amazing. And the amount of time and effort and worry that we spent over the years on our encroachment on food service, it seemed intractable. And now here we are. And Galen, one of the things I'm going to miss not being on the school board is going to lunch at Truckee High School, because Galen and I would periodically go to Truckee High to have lunch to check out the food service offerings, and they were always great. And the staff was always amazing. So I'm going to really miss that. But please, compliments to you and to Kat Saltmarand and the entire food service staff. So thank you. It's a big deal.
They deserve it, and they have been keeping up with all this with the same number of existing staffing. We're going to have to add some staff to kind of provide some relief for them because the meals are still very high volume numbers at the school sites. So,
Todd, excuse me, aren't we feeding everybody though? I think that was part of the whole thing, is that we're feeding everybody.
We're required.
Who wants to be fed.
Correct.
Right.
Like if you want food, you can get it.
So
that's huge.
So over the last couple of years during COVID, we're under federal waivers, which allowed us to continue the seamless summer program. So that's how we're getting federal reimbursement for that. In 22-23, where that's changing, is now it's a California program, universal meals, and we have to provide at least one breakfast and one lunch for every student that wants it, regardless of their free or reduced status.
And remember, we kept food service going, not only for our students, but anybody who came to us during the apex of the pandemic.
Okay, so the last item here, this is, will you go back real quick? Thank you. So the highlighted green thing, that's the culprit. That's the big change that occurred. And that we just found out actually about 3 o'clock this afternoon. So we made some quick changes here. But this is related to indirect cost transfers. And essentially with all of our federal programs and even some of our state programs, we're allowed to charge what's called indirect costs, which is essentially kind of your overhead or your admin cost associated with that particular program. So we have a predetermined rate that the state gives us. It's a little over 4%, I think. So with some of these programs, we have a cost or a charge to them of the 4+%. Is that what it is, Angie? 4.39. And essentially, we charge a cost to that particular program. This particular one was food service. And then we transfer that to the general fund where it shows up as a credit or a negative expenditure for us. So it's almost like a revenue, actually. What happened in this case is in the past, we've always been able to charge the full indirect cost rate against our food service overall cost. That included everything from staffing to food to materials. We would apply that rate, do the transfer. They've changed the rules a little bit. Now they require us to exclude the cost of food from that calculation. So when we found that out, that was a difference of about $36,000. So made that change and adjustment, and that's where we are here. And that was the big change. So, and this is just our overall look at our 2021 actuals through budget adoption for last year, and then through our estimated actuals and unaudited actuals and the changes that occurred. Lots of changes. Going forward, please. Next slide. And this is just our breakdown of our revenue. As we see, our property taxes are the largest revenue source. Usually it's a higher percentage than that, but because we've seen a lot of COVID relief and different funding sources coming in, you see some of those other pieces of the pie a little bit larger than we normally would. Next slide, please. And this is our overall expenditure changes over the year, total of $79.87 or $88 million. And that shows the change from estimated actuals to our actuals of $482,000 reduction. And that's just our showing that the larger categories of our expenditures are all related to people, certificated staff, classified, and benefits. It's the biggest pieces of our pie. And this is just how we're looking for our fund balances. We have $5.4 million in restricted funding sources. A lot of that's related to some of the ELO and ESSER funding that we received. And then our reserve for economic uncertainty, just under $13.2 million. We still have about $1.8 million in our designated unrestricted fund balance, which is our instructional materials reserve, our bus replacement fund, our tech reserve, and our MAW funds. So that leaves us with a reserve for economic uncertainty of 16.49%. And then moving forward, after we finish closing the books here, we'll be bringing the first interim report for 22-23 for you. In that, we'll be making some of the changes that we covered at the 45-day revision, which includes the increase to our property taxes of 9.5%. And then also adding in some of those one-time funding sources that were adopted with the state budget, the home-to-school transportation reimbursement, and then also adding all the additional staffing and operational costs that we added after we adopted our budget in June. And then we'll just continue to monitor the food service revenues and contribution to see if we can adjust that a little bit as well. Any questions?
No? Any questions? I asked mine along the way. Okay, do we need to approve this? I'm sorry.
Yes.
It is an action item. Okay, public comment on this. Come on, you guys, some detailed financial analysis here.
We have public.
Okay, seeing none. Would the board like to move approval?
Thank you, Fiscal Services, and with that, I will make a motion to approve the unaudited actual.
Second?
We're pushing our green buttons here. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Nice work. Thank you. Next, we're at comments of board members. So let's start at this end today.
I've got nothing.
Oh. I spent 6 hours in Denver last night, just so you know. Got home at 2, which was 5 o'clock my time, so that was, I'm a little tired. Spent all of last week I spent at Tahoe Lake Elementary at the special ed class, which was awesome, as an extra aide. And I got to leave at 1, which was good. I didn't have all day, but I was there just hanging out with them, and then I did some recess duty. And I'll probably do some more at North Tahoe Middle and High School. Can't really teach the classes like at the high school that I can do the elementary, so I'm not sure what I'll be doing at the high school levels, but had a blast, and it's really fun to see all the kids back in school. And then I did listen to the webinar, Landing Locals, which was Mountain Housing talking about just what's out there. And Landing Locals has done a really good job starting in Truckee, and then they've moved to South Shore and also in Tahoe, Placer, sort of, and they have other places as well, other ski area towns. And they said that they've gotten, which is, I just am excited about the fact that we are taking things that we need to do to keep our community vibrant in our own hands. And so this Landing Locals is working on getting, they said they had 100 families, 100 people put their houses into this Landing Locals, which gave 183 people a place to live that lived here. And one of the deals is you have to live and work in this area. You have to work in our area. So you have to work in Truckee or in South Shore. And South Shore is just starting off, and they had 12 families put their houses in, and then 23 people were provided a job. And so they just talked about the incentives that they're giving them at our level as well as state level. And then they said Truckee didn't expect it, which it's crazy, but they had 160 inquiries for people putting their houses into the rental program. So awesome momentum. Truckee's got some different sort of stipulations, and sort of, Placer has some different stipulations, a little bit more flexible. And then you have to be employed in the Tahoe Truckee district, the Tahoe region, which is actually kind of good for us. But the one in Tahoe Placer is funded by TOT, which gives it a little bit more of a longevity as opposed to a grant that comes from Landing Locals. So he's really excited about the fact that this could last a little bit longer with this option. And it's basically to get people to get their houses in the system. It's not for houses that are already rented. But it was just really exciting to see that and I think I say that it's just happening internally in the grassroots, similar to what we're doing with Moms, Demanding Action. I think that Tahoe Truckee has sort of figured out that there's so many things that are happening above us that we can't control, but we can pretty much work on keeping ourselves sort of up to speed. And I think that we're so proactive in terms of how do we keep ourselves here, which was really cool. And then I just went back to Vermont for a week and just got back. Thank you.
Thanks, Dee Dee. For me, I felt like I was on smoke patrol. You were always on smoke patrol. I was just on the on some of the, but I really want to appreciate all of you who made the really difficult calls. And, we get criticized whatever decisions we make on a regular basis. But I appreciate that you all kept what is best for kids and kids' learning in mind, as well as staff safety. So I know it wasn't easy. And thank goodness for the lower temperatures and the rain. And today, I guess they took the official smoke warning off of the air quality website. So, my retired firefighter husband says, well, it's still going to punk around in the interior, honey, which means we might get a little bit of smoke, but it won't be as bad as it has been, thank goodness. So while I didn't do that personally, I really want to appreciate everyone who did, and appreciate the community's patience with us when we make these really hard decisions where we can't possibly predict the weather, and we can't possibly please everyone. So thank you for always doing your best. I really appreciate it.
Well said. Yeah. Okay, so I have been following and shadowing Superintendent Geisels. I've been on the Truckee side a little bit, went to Truckee High School and Sierra High, and just super positive experience, and really just people watching, watching the kids in the hallways, watching the teachers, just kind of like interacting with the students, and I just love being back in the schools. And then we also saw both the facilities for the infants and the toddlers and the STEP program at Sierra High, which I have to say was the highlight of my day, because a little toddler kept wanting to walk up to me, and that's been a long time since that's happened. So that was super positive to be back in the schools. Did the same thing at North Tahoe High, and looking forward to hitting the middle schools and the elementary schools, and just it feels good to be in the school year. Yeah, thank you.
We had a very long day today. I just want to thank our fellow board members and anyone who participated in today's meeting. We've been here since 1 o'clock today, having some really important conversations and hoping to steer the ship in the right direction over the next couple of years. So thank you, everyone, for your thoughtful comments and your participation in a very important meeting. I think also I wanted to second on Kim's comment about the smoke patrol team, because this is our new normal. Nobody ever thought that 2 weeks ago during our school board meeting that we would be dealing with a fire that was breaking out at the very time we were meeting, and that we would have it be so very close to us heading in our direction. So it was both terrifying to know that this was actually coming so close to us, but I really do want to thank everyone for their sort of persistence and determination in making the right decision for students and for the health of our athletes as well. And also for the food program to continue to decrease and address food insecurity for our families during a time of extreme difficult economic challenges. I really am very proud of the fact that we kept food flowing for as long as we did during a very difficult time. And then I'm also running on fumes because I just got back from a 5-day blitz of driving up and down from UC Santa Cruz up to UC Santa Barbara to move one into a new apartment and one into the dorms. Spent way too much time at Target. I don't even want to admit how many trips to Target. We waited in line for hours, but we got everything we needed down to the last bathrobe at Target in Isla Vista. Fighting with people over a bathrobe. Can you imagine? And with that, have a good night, everyone.
Thank you. We'll adjourn to we have a special meeting on Monday. So, yeah, a short one. Okay, thank you.